Hi, I'm Brad Smith, attorney and founder of the law offices of Bradley H. Smith, where we help injured workers across North and South Carolina. If you've been hurt on the job and have a workers' compensation claim, I'm going to explain something to you that comes up with a lot of frequency. That is mediation. What is mediation? Mediation is just a fancy word for a settlement conference. At this conference, you, along with your attorney, will sit down with the attorney that represents the insurance company and employer. And you'll also sit down with the mediator. And throughout this process, the parties will try to reach a resolution of the case, usually on a full and final basis. Now, this is important. The mediator that's present is not a judge. He or she doesn't have any authority to decide who wins or loses the case. He or she can't force you to do anything that you're not prepared to do. The ultimate goal of the mediator is just to try to see if they can help the parties come to an agreement. Mediation is a fantastic tool because it allows the injured worker to have a say in the ultimate outcome of their case. In North Carolina, mediation is always required when one side or one party files a hearing request with the Industrial Commission because there's some issue in dispute. In contrast, just because a hearing request is filed in South Carolina doesn't necessarily mean that the case is required to participate in mediation. However, there are some exceptions to this, like if it's a death case, or it's a permanent total disability case, or an occupational disease case. In those instances, mediation is required. Now, in both states, both sides can just voluntarily agree to mediate, not because there's an issue in dispute, but just because both parties agree that it's a good time to sit down and discuss a possible resolution of the case. One thing that's very unique about mediation is that everything that is discussed during mediation is kept confidential. And what I mean by that is that the mediator can't later be called to testify at a hearing to say what you said during mediation or what maybe the attorney for the insurance company said during mediation. And the reason for this is they want to create an atmosphere that allows the parties to speak openly and candidly about their view of the case and not be afraid that something they say could be used against them later down the road. And ultimately, this can lead to a much more fertile environment for a settlement. Why is mediation such an important and valuable tool to injured workers? Well, first, it's much faster than waiting for a decision following a hearing. The hearing process can take a year before you have a decision, and then if one side doesn't like the decision, they can appeal. That could add another year to 2 years to the process. Second, it's much cheaper to avoid going to a hearing and incurring the costs associated with it. If you settle your case in mediation, you don't have to worry about those costs. Third, you have much more control over the outcome of the case. Fourth, you keep your medical and personal information private. And the fifth reason is that it is usually much less stressful to resolve your case in mediation than to go through the hearing process. Now, while mediation focuses on cooperation among the parties, having an attorney on your side can make a huge difference. At my firm, we'll discuss and explain the full value of your case to you. In addition, we'll gather all the necessary medical records and any other evidence that are needed to support your claim. We'll also negotiate aggressively to make sure we secure the biggest and best settlement possible. And finally, we'll review the settlement agreement to make sure that it contains all the necessary terms and protects you and your future. If you've been injured at work in North or South Carolina and are facing a workers' compensation dispute, don't navigate that dispute by yourself. Reach out to us at the law offices of Bradley H. Smith. We'll give you a free consultation. We're here to help you every step of the way.